GT-R. 3 letters which are synonymous with 2 distinct things: bewitching performance and everyday usability. And this is the latest version of the car that wears those famous letters. It may look largely the same as it did before, but Nissan claims that the updates are the most significant made since the car was launched back in 2007. There's a lightly tweaked front and rear end, huge improvements in terms of quality and design for the cabin, plus changes to the suspension to make the GT-R easier to live with day to day. So, these changes beg the question, has the GT-R gone soft?
So that's the sensible stuff out of the way, but what about the numbers on this new GT-R? Well, it sticks with the same 3.8 litre twin turbocharged V6 engine, but this time power has been up to 562 brake horsepower, which is 10 brake horsepower more than before because it really needed it, and torque comes out at 637 Newton meters. Now the engine's paired up to a same, but Nissan says refined 6-speed dual clutch transmission, which means smoother but also faster upshifts. And while Nissan has increased the power of the GT-R, off the line this thing isn't actually any quicker than it was before, but the performance figures are still absolutely bonkers. I mean, 0 to 62 takes 2.7 seconds and the top speed is 196 miles per hour, and honestly, the way this thing builds speed, Jesus Christ, it's absolutely insane. It is so fast. And I've spent the past half a day with this car now, and every time that I get back into it, whether I've been outside of it for a few minutes or a few hours, every time I get back into it, you almost have to reprogram your brain to process just how quick this thing is. Honestly, it's absolutely bonkers quick and loud. But being a GT-R, the fundamentals kind of don't change despite being an updated model. So Nissan has softened the suspension and the dampers to make this more comfortable to live with day to day, but not to a degree that this thing is easy to live with day to day. It's still a firm car. An Audi R8 or McLaren 570S, far more comfortable, far more compliant over rougher surfaces. And another thing which will kind of niggle away at people is, on the motorway, this car, it's not a refined cruiser. It's loud, the exhaust is loud, there's a lot of tyre roar. In terms of everyday usability, it certainly has it, but there are cars out there, the McLaren and the Audi being two, which kind of do this to a better standard. But there have been improvements, and one huge improvement is the interior.
The dash and centre console have both been completely redesigned, with fewer buttons, and the majority of the car's functions now controlled through the new 8-inch touchscreen display. Quality has also taken a step up too, mainly down to the use of soft Nappa leather, which gives the cabin a much more premium feel.
But what has always puzzled and amazed me about the GT-R is the fact that a manufacturer such as Nissan can produce a car which is as dull and as forgettable as a Nissan Micra, can also develop something which is deranged as this. Honestly, they're just... To think those two cars come from the same manufacturer it's unbelievable. I think across country and point to point, I don't think there's anything else out there which could do it quicker than the GT-R. The way this thing builds speed is just so effortless. You're kind of constantly riding this huge wave of power and torque which just never seems to tail off. This thing accelerates at 30 miles per hour at the same ferocity as it does at 130 miles per hour. And we've had a few laps on the track now, and honestly, it's so fast. It amazes me how Nissan will then make the next GT-R, the all-new GT-R, even quicker than this one, because that must be giving them guys a real headache. You kind of think that some sort of hybrid electric powertrain is inevitable, and probably will be, but what that does is, as well as adding extra power and performance, it also adds weight, and quite a lot of it. And the GT-R is not a light car to begin with. This thing's heavy. This thing's pushing, with 2 people and luggage, this thing's pushing 1,800 kilos. This thing's heavy, man. And 562 brake horsepower can certainly disguise that bulk in a straight line, but when you get to corners, the size of this thing really starts to show. The GT-R is still an agile car, but it just doesn't feel as light-footed as some of its rivals, especially the McLaren. Now, despite this thing being four-wheel drive, which gives it bags and bags of grip, it's still quite playful. That four-wheel drive system doesn't make this a blunt instrument. And especially in quicker corners, when you get on the throttle a bit early, it almost has a sense of a rear-wheel driven car about it. You get on the throttle early and this thing will start to move around, and you've got to have your wits about you. But the amazing thing is it doesn't feel intimidating to drive really quickly. What Nissan has also tried to do with this car is tune the engine to make it a little bit more sonorous. So they fitted a new titanium exhaust, and they've also started to pump the engine noise in the cabin through the speakers. And it works. It certainly has a bit more of a sharper top end than it did before, but the Audi R8, I mean, that V10 is an absolute screamer, and this twin turbocharged V6 just can't really compete when it comes to noise, basically. But the biggest problem I find with the GT-R is it's kind of an all or nothing machine. To really get the best out of it, you really have to be going for it. You have to grab this car by the scruff of the neck, and to try and harness all of that performance on the road just isn't really possible, because if you do, you're not going to be holding on to your license for very long. So when you're taking it easy and you're not driving at full maximum attack, the Audi and the McLaren probably give you a little bit more enjoyment more of the time. But don't get me wrong, this GT-R absolutely still has its place.
But despite its flaws, you can't help but admire the GT-R. If outright performance and pure speed is what you want, then you can't do much better. Plus, it's slightly easier to live with day to day and still incredibly practical. And all of this for £80,000. The GT-R remains the ultimate supercar bargain. Click the video on the left to see how the 911 Turbo fares against the Ferrari 488 GTB, and on the right to see what we make of the McLaren 570 GT. Click on the play icon to watch our latest video, and on the Auto Express logo to subscribe to the channel.